1988 is often remembered for major blockbusters, action stars, and some of the biggest box office successes of the decade. But beneath those headline-grabbing releases were smaller films that took stranger paths. Some mixed genres in unusual ways. Some were difficult to describe in a single sentence. Others simply appealed to a narrower audience than the year's biggest hits. Looking back now, these movies help show just how varied 1988 really was. These are a few overlooked films from 1988 that remain interesting long after the year itself passed. Based on a novel by Dean Koontz, Watchers begins with one of the most unusual setups of the decade. A highly intelligent golden retriever escapes from a secret laboratory while being hunted by a genetically engineered creature. Corey Haim plays Travis, a teenager who unexpectedly becomes responsible for protecting the dog while trying to understand exactly what the government created. The movie combines science fiction, horror, suspense, and adventure into a single package. One moment, it feels like a family movie, and the next, it shifts into a monster thriller. What keeps the film memorable is the dog itself. Unlike most animal companions in movies, this one possesses near-human intelligence, making its interactions with the characters surprisingly engaging. While the effects occasionally show their age, the central idea remains unique enough that people still bring the movie up whenever discussing unusual 1980s science fiction films.
Consumed in flames.
Hell comes to Frogtown. The premise alone sounds like something someone came up with at 3 in the morning.
How am I supposed to,
There's a flap.
After a nuclear disaster leaves much of humanity sterile, a drifter played by Roddy Piper is recruited for an important mission involving mutant frog creatures and the future of the human race.
She yours?
Barter to Leroy.
Private barter.
Well, yes, but...
Shut your hole!
The movie embraces its ridiculous concept from the very beginning and never attempts to explain away its absurdity. Everything about it feels handcrafted from the era's independent science fiction scene. The costumes, practical effects, and bizarre world building create an atmosphere unlike almost anything else released during the decade. It was never designed to compete with major studio productions. Instead, it carved out its own identity by fully committing to an idea that most filmmakers probably wouldn't have attempted. That willingness to be strange is exactly why people still remember it. Homeboy takes a much quieter approach than many boxing movies of the era. Mickey Rourke plays Johnny Walker, a fighter whose career is beginning to slip away as years of punishment inside the ring catch up with him. Unlike traditional underdog sports stories, this film focuses less on winning championships and more on consequences.
That Ruby, she's a good one. She's so pretty.
Johnny is already dealing with physical damage, uncertain finances, and difficult choices about his future. The movie also benefits from a strong atmosphere. The boardwalk settings and small-town locations help create a sense of isolation that mirrors Johnny's situation. Rourke, who also wrote the screenplay, gives the character a vulnerability that separates him from many of the tougher boxing heroes audiences were used to seeing. The the result is less of a sports movie and more of a character study about a man running out of time.
At first glance, Some Girls appears to be a straightforward romantic comedy.
Something sort of mysterious. I didn't have a name for it, but it always kept me wanting her.
Patrick Dempsey plays Michael, a college student visiting his girlfriend's family during Christmas break in Quebec. Upon arrival, he discovers that the relationship may already be ending, while the rest of her eccentric family seems determined to make the visit as uncomfortable as possible. The movie operates almost like a dream. Strange conversations, bizarre behavior, and unexpected situations constantly keep both Michael and the audience guessing. Jennifer Connelly brings charm to her role, but much of the movie's personality comes from the unusual family dynamics surrounding the central relationship. Rather than following familiar romantic comedy formulas, the film leans heavily into awkwardness and unpredictability.
Something happened.
What? What did you do?
Nothing, really.
It's okay. I know.
You do?
Mm-hmm.
What?
That you slept with her.
That distinct tone helped it stand apart from many other relationship comedies released around the same time.
And then she left, in the middle of the semester. She didn't even say goodbye.
These were the overlooked films of 1988. They reveal a side of the decade that often gets buried beneath the biggest hits.
The car of tomorrow. Today. Whoa! And you know who's gonna build these cars? We are.
Some experimented with unusual ideas. Some focused on characters rather than spectacle. Others simply took creative risks that didn't fit neatly into mainstream trends. Decades later, those differences are exactly what make them worth revisiting. The most interesting movies aren't the ones everyone remembers first. They're the ones waiting just outside the spotlight.